Sausage.
Hello, 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 and welcome to Attack the Backlog, the podcast where I, Mark Kuznez, tries to make a dent in their backlog one game at a time. This episode is all about LEGO 2K Drive. This is episode 2, and the final episode in my LEGO 2K Drive adventure, because I made a bit of a mistake. Not that I decided I wanted to stop playing the game, but where I left off in episode 1, having completed the first 2 cups, leaving only 1 cup left before the big final cup, I thought I'm probably around halfway through. I'm sure after I win the 3rd cup and unlock the big cup, there will be some other extra bullshit I have to do, 6 more races, something or other, and it won't just unlock the big cup for me to finish and then have credits roll, but that is exactly what it did. So while I I spent 6 hours playing the game for the first episode, I only had another hour and a half left before I completed the game proper. And by proper, I mean the story. To get some extra time in before doing this episode, which is going to be a short one because there's not much to say, not much has changed, I played an additional hour and a half of just going around the various islands and completing every side mission, side race, and so on that I had not attempted yet, to just get some extra time in, see what was out there, if there were other types of missions, quests that I had not yet tried, and to not just have this be, I did some more races, did the big race, I won, the end, even though that's kind of where I'm at. I really, really don't like this game. The final races and all that was no different. It still has that same rubber banding system, which I think is related to the setting I mentioned. I was still too scared to turn it off, because if it did make it so that the competition always pulled ahead and I had to continuously restart races, even a few times, I would have moaned those lost minutes, potentially hours of time having to redo races. So I didn't do that. But the tracks, I just don't really like them. I think the racing mechanically is good enough to not frustrate on mechanics alone, but compared to other racers, I don't find the driving that satisfying, which leads to being in the open world to be not as satisfying as well, because you're just driving around. The transforming mechanic is neat, but I feel like maybe it should have been, it wouldn't make sense to only relegate it to the races, because when you're especially going into water, if you're still just in your car going around the water, it wouldn't make sense. But I found it annoying at times, especially if you are constantly switching between dirt tracks or dirt terrain, off-road terrain, and street terrain, to have my vehicle transform back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But when I stopped or finished the story and had no more real, quote-unquote, real races left, another thing about that, I don't know what the fucking Snow Island is for. I'm not sure if that was originally in the game or not, if that was a DLC island they added after launch, because all of the real, quote unquote, real races on that island don't give you checkered flags, which is what you need to obtain to unlock the cups as you're going through the story. They're just there, and I don't get it. I spent an hour or two there, and it was all for naught because it meant nothing in terms of story progress. But when I finished the game, the cup also, the big bad final cup, I don't know what to call it bad. It's not bad. I mean, the game is bad. So maybe that's why I said it. But I thought maybe the cup would be comprised of a few races at the very least, but it was just one race. But when I finished it and then went around each of the maps, doing these various quests and races, getting some collectibles, I just had a miserable time. I find the worlds so boring to explore. I don't like finding the collectibles. I don't like being in the world. I also realized I'm not really a fan of racing games that have a significant reliance on boosting. I don't like the drift to boost mechanic, that system, because one, when you are not boosting, you feel unbelievably slow to the point where it almost feels as if you're not moving. So you have to always be boosting. And what I don't like about the drifting to gain boost mechanic is it makes me feel like I have to constantly overdrift. That while I enjoy drifting, to really gain the boost I need, I have to keep drifting past the point where it makes sense to drift. And that feels like I am taking away from my ability to perform at my best, to race as fast as I can. I'm sure there's something I'm missing as a non-racing, especially kart racer aficionado. That is how it feels to me in my basic ass way. And I don't like that. I like it in a game like Burnout, which I use as a counterexample, where you gain boosts from driving in oncoming traffic, from near misses, from causing your opponents to crash. That system feels way more, not accessible, but open to different play styles. It gives you more options. There are options in this, and I'm sure other races of its ilk, where you can get some perks that'll give you some boost when you pick up a power-up, for instance. But in my experience playing Lego TK Drive, nothing really added that much. You still had to drift if you really wanted to get that boost. And that made the racing feel artificially adjusted in a way. I just never jived with it. I don't know what else there is to say. I'm really bummed about it. I was hoping for something more, something. I was just hoping for a good casual time, but it was just so boring. And I don't know what else there is to say. I guess I will at least give props to Visual Concepts for making overall a competent game in a genre they've never come close to my knowledge. Maybe there was, because they got the WWE license relatively recently, so they didn't do, I think there may have been I'm not sure if there was a kart racer. I know there was that Twisted Metal like many, many, many years ago, but that would have been way pre-2K acquisition. So, yeah, I will give them props for stepping out of wrestling and basketball, two very different sports, but both sports, and making an open worldish racing game. But maybe if they get a chance to make a second one, they'll make something more enjoyable. I did more of the Where's Wallow missions that annoy the crap out of me. There was one where I was being strung along by various people trying to find this stupid cat. Found the first clue and then said, you know what? I think they were over here. Then I go over there and talk to someone. That cat, I think they're over here. And then I go over there and I say, oh, actually, the cat's right over here. And then I get the cat and I take it back to its owner, whoever the fuck. And then I was just like, these side missions suck. Bad side missions. Whatever collectibles. Maybe if there was a reason to find the collectibles, find them all and you get this perk, you get that perk, there'd be more incentive to spend the time to get them. And maybe you do, I don't know, because I don't believe I ever fully completed any collectible line. But I ended with just the main campaign completion, 21% overall progress in the game. And then that extra hour and a half led me to 31%. And that is where I said, all right, maybe I should do 2 more percent since 33 is my favorite number. Charles Peanut Tillman, favorite athlete all time. Look him up. He's great. I think he's in the FBI now. He talked about it. I'm not sure if he actually is or not. But that's someone who I really like. I don't like 2K Drive, but I like Charles Peanut Tillman. Anywho, what is there to say? Lego 2K Drive. Played it on Xbox Series X again. Completed it, the main story, with 21% completion in 7.5 hours roughly, and then tacked on another hour and a half for an additional 10% in overall completion, doing a bunch of side missions, side quests, and getting collectibles along the way. I wasn't searching for collectibles after the fact because I didn't care. I highly recommend, if you do want to play this game, or if you are playing the game and you want to go after collectibles, for the love of God, put on the magnet. The collectible finder is great as well to let you know you're in the vicinity of something. But the magnet is very, very, very strong. You don't have to be that close. And without it, you do have to be pretty close. So it makes a significant difference and makes going after collectibles at least less frustrating than it would be otherwise. But that's it. Lego 2K Drive. Big disappointment. But like I said in the first episode, I think part of that falls on me for expecting something different from 2K and Visual Concepts. It really does feel like a free-to-play game. And I say that as a negative. I don't know how it would be taken as a positive, but there are some good free-to-play experiences. This just isn't one of them, and it's also not free. So, yeah. Once again, I am Marcus Nez. Y'all can find me pretty much everywhere at PX Sausage. If you enjoyed this here show or any of the stuff I do and what have you, you can support me and my nonsense over at patreon.com/PXS. Over there, you get access to a monthly Q&A, some fancy Discord roles, a private channel called the Cool Kids Club, random drops here and there, and more depending on your tier, of course. Or you could just support me to support me if that is your fancy. That is, again, patreon.com/pxs. In addition to the Patreon, you can find links to the site, the YouTube, the Discord, and so much more over at pxsausage.com. But that is it. That is all. As always, thank you for watching or listening. I hope you enjoyed this here episode, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day whenever you happen to be listening to or watching this. But for now, adios, arrivederci,